Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third and final episode of our hyper-testing round for the Kerbal Space Program for The Last Project, an upcoming series based on a very interesting concept, which perhaps we'll discuss at the end of the video. For now, however, we need to dive right in and start testing out the numerous crafts that I have left that have been submitted by you lot. So, let us begin. First up is the KJet-01, submitted by Ryan Torkler, a design known to decrease the bird life in the area, apparently, according to its description. This is an atmospheric plane with 3 intakes, 1 high-altitude air-breathing engine, and a very simplistic design is the most you can really say about it. When it comes to designs this simple, built entirely out of, I think this was 24 parts, it's very easy to see how capable it is, and it's also very easy for me to say right now that this is indeed very capable. The design is nice. The wing surface are primarily mounted beneath the center of mass and the actual fuselage, with the back tail plane being mounted above to overcome that offset in the center of lift. It flies pretty well. I'm not using advanced SAS with no trimming required, actually. It seems like a very capable plane. With 3 fuel tanks, it's not going to have the greatest distance that we've seen out of submissions. But the thing is with accepting this, it's that it's got so little parts that there's actually really very little reason not to, I suppose. I guess it comes down to the whole thing again. If it's planes, then I really haven't got much of a use for it. And I still haven't. So, my final thoughts. It flies really well. It probably hasn't got... Actually, to be honest, with 1 engine and 3 tanks, this could have a significant amount of distance. And look at that sweet roll. Yeah, I'm going to say yes to this, actually. Thank you very much for the submission, Ryan. Your submission has got through to the next round, due to its simplistic nature that it simply doesn't demand anything from you. I could use it if I wanted to, but simply having it there on the sidelines wouldn't be a problem because it's not going to use up any processing power. That's my main consideration at this point in time. I'm just worried about using too many parts for my PC to handle. So something that under-promises and over-delivers, the KJet-01. Next up, the KU-27A, submitted by John. Thank you very much for the submission. There is one problem, though. You haven't got any landing gear at the back. Well, I'm not going to take anything for granted, and I trust this guy. If he knows what he's doing, I'm not going to complain. I sure as hell don't know an awful lot about spaceplanes, so who knows, this could be the more efficient way to take off. Launching in 3, 2, 1. Engines up to throttle. Fine control activated, SAS active. And I started this recording as a Mickey take, but that actually just took off. You're kidding me. What witchcraft is this? You are honestly kidding me. How the hell? Okay, let's have a look here. Ooh, contrary to the previous craft, this really wants to tip upwards. Like, really wants it. And, it's... Oh, no, it is quite stable. It does want to tip upwards at all times. Okay. The design reminds me of a certain fighter jet. It does seem to be built in a very similar manner. And it seems to be fairly acrobatic. Doesn't want to spin out with the pitching up at tight angles, which is nice. I'm just wondering whether I'll be able to land this thing, because sure, it's a nice gimmick to not have landing gear when you take off, but for landing, that's a very, very different matter. This isn't a very stable design. I'm thinking I probably have to use advanced SAS, won't I? Okay. Just flying without advanced SAS, it wanted to tip in any direction. Regardless, it didn't have the as I thought, the trend to just tip upwards. So let's take a look here. Landing gear lowered, by which I mean landing gear as in singular. If this thing can't be landed, then I don't know how much hope there is for it. Do I come in nose first, or do I come in engines first? How am I supposed to land this? I'm going to try slamming the nose down at the last second, just try and make contact with the landing gear. And nose down. Hang on, there's something very wrong here. I think it's... the center of mass is probably right here, isn't it? But even if that's the case right now, with the engines, surely not. This is a crazy design. It's just crazy. Absolutely insane. But if it can't land, I don't think I'm going to have an awful much use for it. Maybe as a unicycle. Thank you very much, John, for the submission. Maybe next time. Next up, we have the large interplanetary tug submitted by Derpatron. Thank you very much for the entry of this very unique craft. Large certainly is not misused in this context. This is a ginormous Titan class of an interplanetary tug, equipped with, let's see here, equipped with 12 nuclear engines and additional radial engines for quick burns. This is one hell of a craft. Its center of mass and center of lift are, unfortunately, out of line. I've come to realize. Probably because... why are some of the engines not burning? You've got a bit of a problem with your action groups, mate. You have got a bit of a problem. What is this? Okay, 1 is for solar panels. You said that 1 was for solar panels, 2 was for nuclear engines, 3 was for radial engines, and 4 was for lights, which are very pretty. However, 2 is activating not all of them. 3 activates 1 engine. You haven't really tested this, have you? I like the design. I have to say, I do like the design, and that's not just because of the funky lights. But you haven't tested this. That's really blatantly obvious, and as a result, my faith in how well this functions is it's a bit scarred, frankly. In addition to that, you're carrying way too much RCS. There is no ship in the world, there's no fleet of ships in the world that needs this much RCS. We could probably cut that down, I could do that for you. And it is a bit stupid of me to rate this thing based solely on a few problems with the engines that could be easily fixed in flight. It's just disappointing to see something so obvious as soon as it was tested. If this had been tested, like you said it had been in the description, this would have been immediately obvious. But it's no massive deal, so that should be all of them now activated. In terms of torque, you don't really have any. There are no reaction wheels on this thing, so it can't turn by itself. Suppose you might as well make use of the copious amounts of RCS if you're going to carry this much. And there is quite a lot of RCS. There are quite a few RCS thrusters, so it doesn't turn too slowly. Would have been nice to see some reaction wheels, though. I don't know about this thing. Having said everything about the lack of testing and how that kind of does annoy me, it does look like a pretty solid design. Let's see about overheating, shall we? And it has decent acceleration as well, with 12 nuclear engines. You've got decent efficiency and decent acceleration, with a very large, coupled with a very large fuel capacity. This could be very capable. Large docking port on the base, small docking port on the top, with plenty of solar power, even some command seats, which is very nice to see. Doesn't look like you're actually going to overheat entirely. I can see this working. This is one of the ones where I can see myself using it, even though I have a few criticisms thereof. I'll probably end up taking off the RCS units, but I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it just because I like the design. I expect this is one that I'll be changing to suit my needs a fair amount. Thanks, Debtron, for the submission. Next time, just check your action groups, will you? Say hello to Lars the Buggy, submitted by Oskir. Why do you all have incomprehensible names? This is the landed automated refuel service something. I did know what it stood for, I've just forgotten. And it's a pretty interesting design. I've got to stop saying interesting, but if I go against my primordial nature, nothing good can come of it, so I guess I'm going to carry on. Equipped with 2 funky lights at the back, which is the requirement, of course, and with several landing gear. Intriguing. Yeah, that is nice to see. You do actually lift entirely off the ground when you do that, which I think you may have missed the point of having landing gear as well as wheels in this case. That is... they're not even unlocked for steering yet, are they? It's a bit odd, frankly, it's a bit odd. But we might as well rate the rest on its own merit. Capable of carrying about 500 units of fuel, or something in that area, and of carrying 80 units of monopropellant. This is quite the refueler. Also equipped with a arm. So it can attach and refuel onto anything, absolutely any partcraft. I wonder if we can do it on that statue. Should we find out? Can we refuel the monument? No, apparently not. Oh well. Still, even though it can't do that basic task, this seems pretty reasonable. It's one of the more functional designs, which is akin to my own building style. Equipped with plenty of command seats, solar panels, parachutes in order to land itself. I'm wondering if without jets it'll actually be able to land with this number of parachutes. Yeah, I reckon it might be able to. Yeah, if you land on the landing gear, which I guess is one reason to have them so high up the ground. That does make sense. That makes sense now, yeah. It's also got these landing gear mounted out on the side, which, as you can see, will help if you're doing very tight turns, because if you were to keel over, how about we swap back to staging mode? Like, I can't even do it because this wide wheelbase and low center of mass are actually really stable. That's the main thing of this craft, it is really stable. I can't get it to flip no matter how much or how quickly I turn. Can I get it to flip with this? No, it even survived that. This is a pretty good craft, although one of the wheels is broken. I guess if we raise the back wheel there, it takes the other back wheel off. I would put these landing gears a bit higher up so that you can use them for this purpose. Though I guess you can use them for this purpose anyway, which I am demonstrating right now. And even in this state, it can turn pretty quickly and not break its wheels. It is very rugged, and I like to see that in the craft. This is a yes. A yes to the Lars the Buggy, submitted by Oskir. Weighing only 7 tons and designed in Germany, this is the lightweight Rover Mobile Outpost Mark I, submitted by German Blackout. Thank you very much for the submission. Why did I press that button? Who knows? This is a craft. Absolutely. It's a base on wheels, which we've had quite a few of in the past. The first thing that catches my eye is these fuel lines. Apparently this comes equipped with engines in order to lift it off in tricky situations, and yes, it indeed does. Weighing only 7 tons, I imagine that this number of engines will be sufficient for it to be powered. Gotta wonder though, how would you get back down? Because there are no parachutes on this thing. No parachutes. It's quite intriguing. I really don't know how to rate this. Do I rate this as a buggy? Because it doesn't really look like one. I mean, I guess technically it is. It's got room for 2. And the nice forward-facing IVA view, which I like so much. I do like that. It's quite a capable driver as well. At low speeds, we can turn it fairly quickly without much issue. If I put it into docking mode, that'll become even better with fine control also enabled. It's pretty fluid. The driving is just... I don't know how to describe it. It feels fluid. It's also got nice green funky lights. Green being one of my favourite colours, that rates it higher. How many parts does this thing have? I think it was in the region of 80, if I remember correctly. Let's have a look. 87. Total mass 7.6 tons. Or 0.06 tons. I quite like it. It's even got yellow ones on the side. I'm quite hesitant to rate this thing. I guess we need to test out the VTOL. Let's actually do that. You say you have engines for tricky circumstances. Well, let's see about that. After I sneeze. Okay, brakes on. And switch back to staging mode. Engines on. Maximum throttle. There we go. So we could lift off if we were hurt for some reason. And then... oh. Just want to gently try and bring this thing down. Yeah, that's decent. It hasn't got an awful long burn time, and using these wheels aren't the best, perhaps, for this type of craft. But they do seem to give it that smooth driving experience that I mentioned earlier. It seems quite capable, to be frank. It does seem quite capable. Something is making me unsure of how to rate this. I want to put it through. I feel like I want to put it through, but I'm just concerned about how few how few places left I have for submissions like this. Carrying 87 parts. It's not the simplest of crafts. And the low fuel... oh, please repair. It's breaking as soon as I repair it. If I repair it in midair... there we go. That's a bit of a trick that you should learn. I'm going to say yeah. I'm going to say yes. If I can't immediately see that, oh, this will be useless, if I can see some glimmer of use in it, I guess it's worth putting through. It's even got docking boards on the back, so I guess you can refuel it in the event that you do end up using up all your fuel very quickly. Yeah, this is a yes. It's quite a nice, functional little, homely little base. Even makes work as a Kerbal shelter. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present the Low Squirt Mark II, submitted by Isaac. Thank you very much for the submission, and this is a remarkable rover. A remarkable rover. It's asymmetrical, with two command chairs on one side and one at the back. Looks a bit like a lawn chair or a sunbathing bed, with its back panel. Ah, this is the one I like. I like this. It seems like a really fast little rover. I'm worried about how it's turning like this, but that is, of course, a product of docking mode. But still, nothing like the other one. It seems very content to flip over. But then again, it also seems very content to right itself, which is quite nice. Also, one of its most touted features, according to the description, is the ability to not flip head over heels when coming to an abrupt stop. So I guess we'll accelerate to top speed, which appears to be 21 to 22.1, 22.2, 22.3, something like this meters per second. And if we come to an abrupt stop, it won't tip head over heels. However, if we're going backwards, can the same be said? Ah, I didn't expect that, did you now? Apparently the centre of mass is very, very far back, and you can believe it based on this design. So if we were to come to an abrupt stop like this... not bad. It's just the turning circle I'm worried about, because it has got an alright turning circle, but turning at high speeds will cause it to flip over without a moment's notice. If you'd extended the wheelbase, even slightly, just by a matter of half a metre in diameter, this would have improved about 2 times over, because it's very bare bones and functional, again akin to my building style, but that means that issues with it that come about as the simplicity could be easily fixed with the addition of just like 6 more parts. It flips way too easily. Though I like how it looks, and I like the concept behind it, it flips way too easily. Thank you very much for the submission, but that is a no. Next up is the Little Space Tug Mark I by the Baffling Atom, which is literally a space tug apparently. There are a few problems with it that I've realised in the past 30 seconds. Its centre of thrust and centre of mass are not aligned, and as a result this is basically a no immediately right off the bat. I'm not entirely sure what you thought a tug was, but this looks more like a boat. So in order to appropriately test this thing, I guess I have to get it into the water, right? Right, it's now in the water. We can turn gravity off, and also turn off advanced SAS, I believe, Time to test this thing in its natural habitat. Throttling up. There was an engine underneath here. Has that been broken by the water? Oh my god, we're taking water on board! This thing doesn't seem to function as a boat, Captain. Are you surprised? Not really. It is amusing, you know what? I'll give you that. It's a very amusing little design. However, it's completely non-functional both in space and in the water, which appears to be where it would work best. Or at least appears to be where it is designed to work. So though I commend your efforts in going beyond the boundaries of what's expected by Kerbal Space Program, I would have to give this a no. It does, however, make me want to go back to designing boats. Are there any seas on Duna? Next up, the long-range aircraft submitted by Adrian. Thank you very much for the submission. You've got solid rocket boosters. You've got solid rocket boosters. Launching in 3. I've got no idea how to pilot this. 2, 1. And we have... Well, hey, it made it lift off, right? Yeah. They lasted a bit of a shorter time than I would have hoped, but hey, it got it to lift off really quickly. That's pretty good. It's a weird combination of a gimmick and an actually very functional plane, isn't it? If you start off with, hey, mine launchers using solid rocket boosters, you expect that the plane itself isn't going to be any good, but this is not the case. It actually is. It's got a massive surface area, which gives it a lot of lift, which makes it very maneuverable. When you go up into the high atmospheres and start running out of intake air, you can always turn off your outer engines using this, and fly just using your central one, which would be plenty. The fuel lines on the underneath mean that, you know, all your fuel is managed fine. The lights are green, get my approval. And it's even got parachutes. For what, I wonder? What are the parachutes for? Adrian? Huh. We're gonna go in for a landing. And are they drag chutes to help you land? Or are they supposed to be deployed in mid-air? I'm rather confused. Well, of course this thing can land easily because it's got such a massive surface area. Deploying the parachutes. Oh, it was an escape system. Oh, well, balls. Does the plane have any probe core on it? No, there's your biggest failing. You know what? It's such a fun plane to fly. I'm going to accept it because... Yeah, I've got to accept it on its own merits. It's got an abort system which looked like it would have worked if I wasn't an idiot. It's really fun to fly. It uses an interesting combination of the two engine types. Yeah, I'm going to accept this. I'm probably being too nice, but I will. This is the miniature multitask plane submitted by Asger Schultz. I'm pronouncing everyone's name incorrectly today, but thank you very much for the submission. This is a 32-part single stage to orbit. I believe it can do it. I think it can do it. I want to see it do it, because if it is a 32-part single stage to orbit, then that's an immediate yes. With such a small part count being able to do so much, including have RCS reaction control systems, and 3 landing gear and a definite plane structure, yeah. I'm pretty sure I've flown planes like this into orbit before, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it right here and right now. Earlier at the start of this video, I said that this would be the 3rd and final episode of the hypertesting. Well, it turns out that can't really be the case because we're already getting quite late in the video. In one more we'll have finished all 100. So I think we're going to try and go for that. In order to not make the video unreasonably long, though, so that I can carry on testing as many as I can in this episode, we'll now cut to when I'm higher up to my goal. Oh, here we are, after no time at all. This thing's actually, is actually already quite high up. And I left it at a 45-degree angle, and it accelerated to crazy speeds. Not sure if I've done it correctly to get into orbit though, because I wasn't expecting how quickly this thing was going to accelerate up into the atmosphere. But hey, it's worth a shot. I mean, with these two engines, with plenty of fuel here for them it seems, this actually might get into orbit just right now. In which case, that's incredible. I mean, it only carries one person, true, and most good SSTOs actually go into the basis that you carry more than one person. Because, you know, with 3 parts you can make a single-man SSTO. But this functions as a plane, and it gets into orbit really quickly, if it does get into orbit. Oxidizer is running dangerously low. Ooh, we'll have to see whether this thing... Ah, the oxidizer is going to kill it, isn't it? I'm going to cut it at 15. Ooh. Yeah, I think it's my fault flying this incorrectly, but I've pretty much had my suspicions confirmed. I think this thing can get into orbit. Of course, it would have to take me a bit more time to actually play around with to make sure that it could, but off of this basis, I'm going to accept it. Thank you very much for your submission, Asger. Or Ager, or... Huh, that's interesting. Not entirely sure what your name actually is. Whatever the case, thanks for the plane. I'll try and put it to good use. Allow me to present the Mark II Intrastellar Transport, submitted by XX Solar 99XX. Thank you very much for your submission. Much like the one we saw earlier, using Mark III parts to give massive fuel capacity, and using a total of... what is that? Is that 12? Yeah, a total of 12 nuclear engines again. Okay, so this is very comparable to the one that I accepted earlier. And as a result, this is now its competitor, because I probably won't use both in the end. In the next round of testing, could this be the one to knock that out? It has a lot of the same design philosophies, like using way too much RCS. Admittedly, this uses way too much to a much less degree than the other one, so that's an advantage for it. Apparently, without a payload, this thing, using nuclear engines, has about 8 km per second of delta V, which is enough to get it to Duna, and perhaps even beyond. In fact, it's certainly enough to get it beyond. And apparently using this, it has about 5 km per second of delta V. It has a launch stage. A very, very unconventional decision for a interplanetary transfer stage. But it recognizes the truth that sometimes you just want to get there quickly, and you don't want to have to mess about burning with slow burning engines. With one action group to switch between the two, correctly bound, this is a much better entry than the other one I accepted. In fact, you've knocked that other one out. The other one did have one better. It did do better in one respect, which is that it had a docking port both on the back and on the front, which of course is impossible, seeing as you only have one here. But I like this one. I like this one much more. So I'm going to accept this one, and we'll see in the next round of testing whether I really do retract my acceptance of that previous interplanetary tug. Thank you, XX Solar 99XX, for the submission. Launching in 3, 2, 1, liftoff. This is the MSTW_T Kerbaby MRU, submitted by Ghost Host. Thank you very much for the submission. Using a very powerful over-the-top launch stage. Well, I guess it would only be over the top if it really used Mark III parts, wouldn't it? So using a launch stage. Dropping first pair. A very bouncy launch stage. Hey, each pair even has parachutes to activate. Huh, that's a nice touch. Can this thing actually get into orbit? I probably ought to throttle down if I want to attempt that seriously. But I probably won't be attempting it seriously, so it probably doesn't matter. This is supposedly a interplanetary tug. It's now spiraling out of control, but I guess that doesn't really make it any less of an interplanetary tug. Why is it spinning like that? Intriguing. Drop the next pair. Okay. And I guess we'll start doing our gravity turn. Hey, might as well. Not sure we'll make it into orbit in this test, but we might as well. So, using just one nuclear engine, way too much RCS. What is it with you people and RCS, honestly? I'm going to rip out all these massive RCS tanks, because you shouldn't be using them. They're a ginormous waste of mass, unless you are a interplanetary flagship, right? Which this certainly is not. It's got these 4 detachable panels on the side, and the launch stage doesn't seem to really want to turn over and play nicely. But, what are they? Oh, they're little chairs for Kerbals to sit in. Suka. I see. These are little advanced SAS capable, solar panel powered, battery fitted, RCS mounted, command chair capable, little whizzy launcher things. Is the best description I can give them. That's not half bad. You know what? That is not half bad. But the single liquid fuel engine. So this isn't an interplanetary tug. No way. Also, does fuel even flow through that? Does this thing even actually have fuel? Huh. I guess we'll find that out. Let me cut this engine, burn the next one. I tell you, it's got a lot of launch stages. I mean, this could probably go to the moon right now. Oh, it does have fuel. Interesting. Very interesting. Huh, okay. Well, this works as a little tug, I suppose. It's just these things I'm more impressed by. Little armchair things for flying around in the depths of space. Crew transport, that's what this is, it's crew transport. Despite how adorable it is, even according to its own description it is adorable. Despite that, I'm gonna have to say that this doesn't quite meet my requirements. If there is an action group for flinging these things away though, I'd like to see it, because I'm gonna press every single action group button and hope that one of them is bound to detach. Oh, they're not. Oh, that's just boring. Gotta admit, I like the spinning. I like the spinning. I just need to fling some Kerbals off now. Whee! That's not bad, but it's not at all what I need. So thank you for the submission, but also no thank you. 35 parts in one stage. This is Navajo, submitted by Brent Ross. Thank you very much for the submission. It's a standard atmospheric plane, using 2 atmospheric engines, and with, now that I've deactivated RCS, a pretty stable flight pattern. Oh, it is prone to spinning out at high pitch angles. Ah, it's not perfect. Can it be recovered though? Oh, ooh. Ah, it spins out at high pitch angles, something that many of the crafts we've had in this series so far have failed to do. Well, I suppose failed kind of has negative connotations, doesn't it? Also conjoined with the fact that this thing has got 2 atmospheric air-breathing engines side by side, it has a low resistance to flaming out. Thank you for the submission, but no thank you. The Oracle Mark IV, submitted by Mike, a single stage to orbit, which is apparently very capable according to its description, but is it very capable? Well, let's take a look and see. It can't take off. That's one way to count against this capability. I don't like that. I don't like that you have to wait until the end of the runway. That is not nice. Your wheels are too far back. I was informed of this by someone who was criticizing me on the stream. Your wheels are too far back, which prevents you from taking off. You've got a lot of wing surfaces, 3 Rapier engines, one of which is lighting up. The 2 aren't. Why is that? Why aren't they lighting up? Huh, I'm not entirely sure. Room for 2 people, 2 command pods, which is quite nice. An awful lot of air intakes, with 3? Is that 2 or 3? I think that's 2. 2 on each one of these parts, with another 2 in the center there. This is definitely going to be capable. carrying a lot of fuel on the outside and atmospheric fuel on the inside for when the rapier is in this mode. You can switch using Action Group 1, and you can close the air intakes using Action Group 4. Not that you'd want to do that right now. I'm not sure whether I'll take this all the way up into orbit, but it definitely looks like a functional plane. I don't like the style. I don't like the obvious and plain in-sight spamming of air intakes. I decided to take the Oracle all the way up into orbit just because I was interested to test it out. And true to its word, it does in fact get to 80 kilometers. It can in fact circularize at 80 kilometers. Well, it will do in a very short amount of time, with plenty of fuel to spare. It's a good SSTO. It is a good SSTO, and I'm glad I've accepted it. I think I was just basically placing too much emphasis on the importance of looking good and not spamming. We'll certainly have to see how it compares against the other SSTOs, which are going to be coming in the next episode of our hyper testing. The next and actual final episode of our hyper testing. Because this one was supposed to be the final one, but it never really turned out that way, did it? So, thank you very much to everyone who submitted their craft today, and I shall see you all next time. Bear in mind, the submissions are closed, so don't go trying to submit anything now. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all next time.